What do you want me to call you?
Do I sit down?
Yeah, just sit down, bro.
Sick.
Friendly Jordies is in the building. Everybody, this is like every Australian YouTuber knows each other. Make no mistake. They're all friends with one another. They all know each other. There's like 8 of them, and they all know each other. This is a video of yours that we were looking at. This is the first time we're meeting up. For those of you who don't know, Friendly Jordies is. Are you a former male model? Former male model, Chomsky enjoyer. And he does a lot of great work investigating and exposing Australian war crimes. And also, obviously, recently, you uncovered a lot of gambling-related things and the connection that it has to the Australian government and the criminal element, the buy keys, and whatnot. And I guess we're gonna go and venture into different parts of Sydney. This is not gonna be about like any of those things, but instead we're gonna investigate together whether or not Australia has been overtaken by the Chinese.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So that's what I've heard.
What's happening?
That's what I've heard. That's what.
Why are you here, Hasan? Like, what inspired you? Was this the drive? Was it?
No, I flew for 15 fucking hours.
Yeah.
To Australia just to hang out with the boys.
Hang out with the boys.
And I also have like I have some podcasts that I'm doing out here.
Yes.
But I wanted to, while I'm here, aside from the podcast and whatnot, I wanted to also do some IRL streams and walk around town and potentially go tomorrow. Like we're gonna go to a petting zoo, well not a petting zoo, like a real zoo, but we're gonna get like a private.
Can I ask about that?
Yeah.
What's with all the animal content recently? Not that I don't love it. I've been watching it heaps. I'm really into it. But what got you into animals all of a sudden?
I've always loved animals.
Okay.
I've always been a fan.
Yes.
But I don't know. It's just it's so dope. It's so nice.
It is.
It makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta like pull out of the whole constant fucking cycle of just talking about humans and their politics and how shitty it is to just go and pet some animals and learn a little bit about that sort of thing. Did you lip that Zin, or are you free mouthing it like a fucking demon? Oh, do you want a Zin?
Look, I'm not going to say no.
This is an American delicacy.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought this was like a Finnish thing or something. What's it?
So originally, you're right.
Yeah,
it's a snus is like I think like Swedish or Finnish. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is non-tobacco. It's not a tobacco product. It's just nicotine. Straight nicotine.
Just took it to my veins. I'll take
I don't know.
some of that.
Do you?
So what? You're like battling the smokes hard.
Oh yeah, no. I just brought all of this because I'm gonna be here for like 7 days.
Yes. Oh,
here you go. It's a 6 milligram one. It might give you a little buzz.
Fuck me up. Okay. All right.
I don't know. You just lip it a little bit, like douse it with a little bit of spit, and then pack it up top. That's where I pack it.
I kind of fucked it, but look.
It's all good.
We'll get there.
It's all good. Yeah. From what I understand, there's like a massive tax on tobacco products out here.
Oh yeah. Huge.
They were. I got
How much
stuff.
are they in the States? Like how much is it? If you want to get a pack of cigarettes,
I have no idea.
No idea.
I genuinely don't. I quit smoking years ago.
Yes. Okay.
So I don't even fucking know. I'm sure chat will tell.
So you've like stayed off it.
Yeah. Well, I stayed off of it mostly because of nicotine gum, but now I Zin as well. But nicotine gum helped me a lot and helped me quit. Good. So they're saying $10, $8 to $9. Cali, $8 to $10, $7 in Ohio. Obviously, state by state is different. How much is it?
If I was in America, I would smoke. Like, how much does help a lot that it costs like $40.
$40?
Yeah.
That's why. So I got stopped by Customs and Border Patrol, and they were like real adamant. They played it off as like, oh, we really care about like the ecosystem, the delicate ecosystem. It's an island, right? But then they snuck in the tobacco products into that conversation as well. And I thought like maybe there's something about like the indigenous tobacco products that they have here or something, like the versus I don't know, like the tobacco that they get from elsewhere that will like pollute the tobacco ecosystem. No, it's just money.
Yeah, you're just scalping ciggies. That's what they're scared about, you know?
Okay, I didn't realize that.
There's like a big illegal tobacco industry here because of how expensive it is. I don't even know if you guys have the word for it. Chop chop. You ever heard of that?
A chop shop?
No, it's called chop chop. I don't even know what it is. I know that it's tobacco, but I don't know how they get it. But it's like crap tobacco that you cut. It's almost like prison cigarettes. It's
That's
like
crazy.
that level. Yeah.
No, we don't. I don't think we have an illegal tobacco industry because it's like too.
why would
it's
you
cheap.
bother?
Yeah, it's cheap. I mean, there's still an illegal weed industry specifically because of tax evasion.
Oh.
Even though weed is like now legal in many places in America, but they still do it like illegally to just like, not get.
And like where you are in California, it's like harder for you to not be high at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't smoke any weed either. Like I quit smoking weed a while back as well.
Yes.
But it is pretty easy. You just like walk up to any kind of store and you can just easily acquire whatever kind of weed product that you want. They've been like 20 gangland shootings in Melbourne because of black market ciggies in gang territory. What the fuck? That's crazy.
Don't know why it's that profitable a product, but there you go.
So yeah. So what do you think? Do you think China is invading Australia? Let's get right down to it. Let's discuss.
Damn.
And is that
break from the politics?
and then the second question, the follow up is, do you think that's a good thing?
The Chinese
invasion. That's
Do
all
you
I
think
see.
that's even like the model anymore? Like, didn't we kind of just learn after like Iraq that it's like, this isn't flying any? It's too expensive.
From where I'm sitting, or from where I'm standing as an American, the way I understand it and I'm being like obviously sarcastic, but when China does anything that like is even in the same territory as like what the Western powers have done historically, like IMF, World Bank loans and whatnot, and austerity measures that come afterwards, if China even offers loans without the same level of conditions that the American or the Western loans are, as like awful and as like over encompassing, then it's imperialism. When America does it, it's not imperialism. We're helping economic prosperity. When China does it, it's imperialism and it's very bad.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like the white genocide rhetoric that you hear a lot in American politics, where it's the indigenous genocide, not real, totally fake. They were barbarians. They deserved it. But the real genocide is white genocide. Why? Because black and brown people are having consensual sex with white women, and vice versa. That is genocide. That's the real genocide. That's what they believe.
I'm really behind on the American politics because I try and stay out of it because it seeps into Australia too much.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to be like slow on the speed.
I had a guy drive me over here that was talking to me about how America can only be fixed by a second Trump presidency. He was very adamant. He's like, you need a business person to run the country.
Oh yeah, the business person argument.
Yeah.
Is that one still flying in America, or are we past that? Is it we need a businessman to fix things?
I mean, they're not saying it as much because, like, right now, Trump has a lot of issues with his businesses specifically. He's under a lot of legal scrutiny.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. By the Chi-Com-backed, fucked up Biden banana republic that's investigating him, even though he's the least criminal president of all time. But overall, I don't think that they talk about that as much anymore because he's kind of broke. He can't pay. He has like $500 million that he has to pay. He doesn't have it.
And in your opinion, do you think that he's going to be able to run?
Yeah.
Or do you think he's going for it?
Oh, he's definitely going for it. He's going for it out of self-preservation for sure.
Yes.
But the one thing that America does do really well, I do agree with this. Like I'm being sincere, is that you can run from prison. You can't vote if you're a prisoner in many states, in almost all the states. You can't even vote if you get out of prison as a felon in many states. But you can run for president from prison.
Isn't that incredible?
No, I love that.
But yeah, exactly. Don't you want to see it? Don't you want to see a president behind bars?
It's content.
Isn't it?
Because at this point, I feel like we're fucked anyway. So, you
got to that point?
Either way. Oh, we're definitely at that point. I mean, look at this. We got a fucking 88-year-old who has like relatively solid domestic policy, but just dog shit foreign policy that is identical to Donald Trump.
Do you think that it's possible for an American president to not have dog shit foreign policy?
No, it's not.
It's not, is it?
Yeah, no. I
don't really see them as that position. Like, I kind of see them as like a mayor or something. It's like,
I've said this before. Like if Bernie somehow magically became the president, like he would not have like changed course dramatically. You cannot alter the trajectory of the American empire.
No.
I mean, you can in some ways. I feel like you can pick and choose here and there, but like there's just not
You
really.
get some captain's calls.
Yeah.
What drone strikes do you want to do? Which ones don't you want to do? That
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
I feel like you can't like really sway away from wherever our trajectory is, like which direction we're heading in, and it's a self-defeating trajectory for sure. Like I think
What
that
do you mean by that?
I think that I have a suspicion that like post 9/11 war on terror and the acceleration of American empire was like the final chapter in American empire, like in American history. Yeah, I think we are currently witnessing American hegemonic power diminish in the global stage, and other countries taking advantage of that, understandably, because they have their own geopolitical interests. With Russia invading Ukraine, you have Azerbaijan, wiping out Nagorno-Karabakh with Israeli weapons and with like Russian disinterest, I guess, in the past. Like they were at least like holding that relatively stable. You have Turkey in the northern Syrian corridor. It's just like everybody is either with American permission or without American supervision doing whatever the fuck they want to do regionally. You even have with Israel. Like Israel, in my opinion, is like greatly over leveraged and overextended what would have been permissible with American political cover in the global stage by this recent incursion into Gaza. So I think that all is basically, I think that all of that is basically a consequence of like America setting the standard of like how you operate, and then not really having enough soft power or even hard military power to like control all of these other regional actors now.
Yes.
Because we're all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
We're too spread out as an empire to be able to like genuinely control every minutia and all the conflicts.
And as an American citizen, how do you feel about your power diminishing?
Oh, I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Don't give a shit at all?
No. I personally, because like I have no loyalty.
What do you think about the argument that America is the global cop? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like we're the world police in the sense that like if you have a negative opinion of the police, which I think that policing as an institution is a necessity, but like policing in America is completely fucked, then yeah, I think that fits that role for sure. It's brutal,
but are you
it's suppressive.
The argument that other people will take that vacuum and they're going to be more oppressive than the Americans? Do you think that's...
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Neither do I.
I look at like what China has done so far, and there's always the what if they decide to turn the switch and act like America question. And it's a funny one because like it comes with the recognition that America is already doing that, but it's like good that we're doing that. And it hasn't happened yet. Like even with the loans, like for years and years, we're like One Belt, One Road is imperialism, is economic imperialism.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like
back to the TPP.
And yeah, and it's like funny to say that because like then you have all of these like Western institutions, Western magazines like Foreign Policy Magazine, which is not fond of China by any means, right? All of them have had to openly recognize and admit that like Chinese loans and Chinese loan forgiveness was like a better policy, and that if we want to compete with China when it comes to soft power, when it comes to like relitigating some of the relationships that we have in the global south, we have to offer competitive loans to China and not do business as usual. So I think that to me shows that it is a softer approach that they have and not as militant.
Yes.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that like it can definitely turn. I mean, certainly. And I don't know what that would look like.
The other thing is, I just don't think that the model that you guys have with sort of like a system that does have some sort of change, like it does matter significantly if the Republicans or the Democrats are in. Probably not in terms of like foreign policy, but in terms of like setting your guys' economy and the trajectory of where the economy is going in the future. if the Republicans get in, from my like cursory knowledge of it, it seems like every time they go in, everything just goes fucking down.
Yeah,
And so,
they have a policy of like very openly having like taking the most ascetic approach to like federal agencies. They have basically the modern Republican Party now, for the past couple of decades especially, has decided that there is no use for the legislative body. Like the federal legislative body is only good for cutting taxes and cutting Social Security, which, you know, they can get enough Democrats on board to be able to like advance that agenda from time to time. They have, right? However, beyond that, as far as like even civil liberties and whatnot, like even when they want to regress on civil liberties, which is like what they do so they can like captivate certain bases like the white evangelical Protestants and whatnot, like abortion.
Yes.
They completely sidestepped the federal legislative body. Congress is only there to obstruct, right? What they do instead is they court pact for like 35 to 40 years now with the Federalist Society. So all the way from lower courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, they have their guys in.
Yep.
And these are zealots. They're
Yep.
like ideologically aligned with the Republican Party, and they're very far right.
And they're
what
like
they
groomed from they pick
from
promising,
college.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
groomed
yes.
from college. Like
Yeah.
that's your job, that's your purpose.
Yes.
That's why you're in the position that you're in. So what they do now is they utilize the state legislatures, because every single state has like its own little government. You have the state House of Representatives, and you have the state Senate.
I don't know how anything gets done in your country.
It doesn't.
It's amazing.
It doesn't. There's only one direction that policy heads in America. You can either like utilize the federal agencies, like Biden has done fairly well, like the NLRB, or the EPA. Well, the EPA is not so great under Biden either, but
No.
well, in comparison to the Republicans, I guess it at least exists, but Biden's environmental policies have not been great either, especially compared to like what he promised.
Now, do you give him leeway for that? Because my thing that I'm always seeing what happens with the Labor Party here in Australia, right, is you have the fucking Liberals in for like a decade. They just run every bureaucracy into the ground. They put their, like with the courts, they put their guys in there, and then the government just keeps running, even though you have a different party in power, and it takes, you'd have to have a decade to pull everybody out.
Yeah.
And reinstate it. Do you think that that's what's happened to the EPA?
In some respects, sure, but I think that like that corruption is baked into the institution from the jump because of capital interests. Like EPA, for the most part, has like genuine, like really good people that want to do the right thing, but it's still completely undermined by the massive amounts of people that work in the EPA that previously worked for the polluters. You know what I mean? In many instances, oh, you want to take a photo?
Oh, sorry.
In many instances,
And just
like
get up
yeah.
there, buddy. Yeah.
In many instances, what like the EPA has done is like allow these corporations to self-regulate. For example, like Dark Water is a really good movie about a real thing that happened with like DuPont Chemical, where they were, you know, polluting water supplies, like killing farmland, killing animals, destroying agricultural output, and they were the ones who were regulating the chemicals because like it's proprietary, and also there's a lot of protection over that sort of thing in America, and also like they just didn't have access, they didn't have knowledge, like the EPA didn't know what the fuck this chemical even was. So for years and years they were able to pollute the water supply until like everybody got fucking cancer and like animals started, you know, perishing, that there was any kind of investigation conducted into it.
Yeah, and by then the ecology's just
Yeah.
fucked anyway.
So I think like overall all of these institutions have the same setbacks, and it's just what the government is supposed to do. Like it's what the government was designed for, is my belief at least. So you can move it in the right direction a little bit, you know, one step in the right direction, 10 steps back, over and over again. But when you look at it with a larger, when you pull yourself out of it and look at it in like decades, and what that has done to American society, the economy, in every aspect of like American existence, it's just like barreling towards this dystopia that we're kind of in many respects.
Feels like it.
Yeah. So,
even though I've never been there, but from what I've witnessed.
Yeah, no, it is. It is very dystopian. Like, it's really fucked up. But yeah, that's what the Republican Party does now. They utilize state legislatures to like push for like anti-trans bills, right? Like there'll be like 4 trans girls competing in like high school athletics, and they'll write this like insane, overreaching, psychopathic, like bloodthirsty bill that ends up harming almost every single cis girl that is competing in like high school athletics, because like they do stuff like in Ohio, like penis inspection day. You know what I mean? It's like a laughable concept, but like they write this kind of stuff, and then they challenge it in the courts, and all the way it goes up all the way to the fucking Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And it goes unchallenged and unquestioned, and there's really not anything you can do about it if you are an institutionalist, if you are like trying to do it the right way by trying to like combat it the right way. But the Republicans don't give a fuck about institutions at all. They're openly antagonistic towards it, and they will do anything that suits their agenda. So, you know, I think that the Democratic Party should be way more aggressive if they actually did care about like combating Republican policies, But
don't you think that when there is a block, especially when you have 2 parties, look, even when you have minor parties, it comes with its own problems. But
yeah,
when
you have to build coalitions.
A block that's just there to say, I'm going to obstruct everything. It's really hard to do anything when you are the party that's supposed to be building things after that. Because you've got somebody that's sitting there constantly just saying, this is shit, this sucks, this is terrible. And that's a very persuasive argument, because you can always just sit there and say, all right, we're going to put in this little implementation. No, that's way too far, that's way too extreme. Like,
yeah.
well, what the fuck do you want us to do? I don't know. I feel very sorry for public servants in general. I feel like they have a very shit job, and everything's always their fault. And you know, the public's always angry at them. I feel like this is when one party decides to just be obstructionist, you are kind of creating this sort of political domestic terrorism, you know, where it's just like you have really created like a stagnation in the system at that point.
For sure. My frustration with the Democratic Party early on, before I became like infinitely more cynical of the Democratic Party's existence as anything but like basically playing the role of controlled opposition, was like I just could not comprehend it. Like my earlier analysis, like if you go back 10 years, is always like, why won't the Democrats fight back? Like, why won't they do this? Why won't they do that? Like, there are so many instances where like there are only so many lapses in judgment from the Democratic administrations when they have like a supermajority under the first Obama term and the first like up until the midterms, like where they could have made tremendous amounts of change that they just like completely dropped the ball on. Only after like 10 years of this, where I'm like, yeah, I don't think that they're doing it on accident. I think that it's like more so by design. Yes. One example I will use is this. Immigration has always been a right-wing issue, right? Like immigrants are coming into the country, they're flooding the borders, it's an invasion, yada, yada, yada. We have a very like deliberately designed white nativist immigration policy so that we can, consistently have a new cycle of migrants that we can use and abuse and exploit further than like the American labor force that is documented, right? It is a deliberately designed system so that there's a permanent underclass, basically.
Yes.
And everybody takes advantage of it,
yes.
Regardless of political affiliation.
Yeah.
And Democrats are supposed to be the party that cares about immigrants and says like, no, like you guys are the racist ones. Joe Biden specifically ran on first 100 days of immigration. We're implementing amnesty for like an amnesty policy. We're gonna do a lot of stuff. Like we're gonna take DACA dreamers, the deferred action on arrival, childhood arrivals, and we're gonna make them permanent citizens. These guys have already like incredibly rigorous checks that they have to abide by in order to even maintain their like temporary protected status, basically. And the Biden administration completely dropped the ball on that, and now 4 years in, are actually pushing for a right-wing border bill currently. Like Biden repositioned his stance on immigration, saw that there was a lot of like anger towards migrants because like they never counter-messaged against it. The Republicans kept pushing that line over and over again, and now the Biden administration is personally pushing for a incredibly right-wing anti-immigrant border bill that has $22 billion specifically allotted for security, border security measures, giving more money to Customs and Border Patrol. It was literally backed by the Border Patrol union that has billions specifically carved out for building Trump's border wall, like for completing Trump's border wall, which is insane to think about because he ran against that 4 years prior. He was like, that's racist. That's racist. It's not a real solution. It's actually just like bullshit, which is correct. That was the correct position. Back then, he was more popular than he is now on the issue of immigration. The Republicans were still winning on the issue of immigration, but Biden was closer to Donald Trump as far as like popularity on the border issue specifically than he is now. Now that position is like flown out of control, where Trump is infinitely more popular on the border. I believe that is the absolute bad policy and bad politics like to engage with. Why do I say this? Because all they do when the Democrats capitulate or cave to the right on issues like this, instead of like saying, this is our position, here's why it's wrong, all you've done now is concede that this is a national security problem, which immigration never is a national security problem. There's no empirical evidence to suggest that like undocumented migrants are responsible for a larger percentage of crime per capita than like documented U.S. citizens or natural-born U.S. citizens. It's actually the opposite. Undocumented migrants, due to the threat of deportation, are less likely to commit crimes than natural-born U.S. citizens. There is evidence for the exact opposite. And yet they've caved on this issue, on the right-wing framing, and now are themselves pushing a right-wing border bill that the Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to push. We're not going to pass.
Yes. Yeah.
So to me, that's
They've
like...
been wedged.
Yeah, to me, that's like you're doing that because either you are the worst politician I've ever encountered in my entire fucking life, or you just don't give a shit and you have bad political instincts, and you have now, as a consequence of your bad political instincts, have basically moved the country further right on immigration.
Right.
Which is terrifying.
Yes, that's true. However, how's Biden polling at the moment? Is he still doing bad?
No, it's terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah, Biden is, every week a new poll comes out where Donald Trump is like increasing his margins. There are areas where Biden could fucking clobber Donald Trump on, and has actually polled very well on. Areas such as abortion, areas such as protecting democracy. Like the way that the American population looks at Trump is that he is volatile, he is bad. We still remember the 4 years of Trump and aren't too fond of it. Mm-hmm. And yet, because of his framing on the border, because of his like hyper focus specifically on the border, and I think he's doing that because he wants to continue maintaining his like solid lead in the suburbs, which used to be like purple, I guess, somewhat Republican, somewhat Democrat, but now it's like red. Fully no. Suburbs are all Democrat now.
Okay.
Like a lot of like Biden has flipped the table on demographics as far as like older white populations. Like he has captivated a lot of people that don't like Trump's aesthetics and think that Trump is like too volatile and like scary and will undermine democracy because they, believe that in that sort of thing. They think it's like real. And yet while doing so, he has completely dropped the ball on young voters. Trump is winning on young voters, actually.
Really?
Yes, which is insane.
What is young voter, 18 to 25?
I think under 35.
Under
18 to
35.
35,
Okay,
which is
yeah.
crazy to think about.
That's a big demo.
Yeah, that's a big demo. And, you know, they're not like, a lot of them don't vote. Oh, hold on. Oh, I got to run the 3-minute ad break here at the top of the hour.
Do it.
But overall, it is, 18 to 35. Trump is winning over Biden on some of the polls. I think it's like that is an aberration. Like I feel like that has to be wrong. Like I can't comprehend how that happened, and he's losing the margin that he had on black voters and Latino voters, which are, again, like the black voter base is a stronghold for the Democratic Party.
Yes, yes.
Always 90% plus.
Yeah.
And in recent years, Trump, I think like last election cycle was like 8%. Now some of the polls show him at 22%, which is
My word.
unimaginable, unheard of. So,
Do you think that that's to Trump's credit?
no, I think that's I don't think it's like Trump's credit. I mean, I'm sure like
Because he is a phenomenon, right? Like,
Yeah.
What do you think that once Trump goes, the Republicans have nothing after that?
I
Do you
agree.
think it is okay? So it
Yeah.
is just a thing of like it is him that's like driving all of this.
Yeah, I think Trump has like caused a major rift in the Republican Party because he was too successful in many instances. Like from a Republican perspective, he was way too successful as far as like pushing super far right bills and communicating super far right bills and super far right ideology that the Republicans at least like would dial back a little bit. He just openly would say, he'd be like, Mexicans are rapists. We have to do a border wall because they're going to come and rape you. Like, and that for a lot of people who have been voting for right-wing Republicans was almost like liberating, where they were like, oh yeah, that is right. We do think that, which is terrifying.
But he's also winning on Latino voters, though.
Yeah, because so here, this is a fascinating phenomenon. I don't know what the Australian equivalent would be, but 60+%, 62% of Latino voters in America identify as white, according to the census.
Okay. Right.
So Latinos have now been like captured in the white umbrella, in many respects. So there's a lot of like, you even hear like anti-immigrant sentiment, depending on which area you're looking at. You don't have that in like younger Latino voter bases in like places like Arizona, in places like Nevada, but you do see that with like third generation, fourth generation Latino voters like in Texas, for example, or you see that with like specific Latino voters like the Cuban voter population, the voter bloc. Always been very reactionary. The only time it flipped in the Democratic direction was Barack Obama. Why? Because young Cubans were voting for Barack Obama.
Yes.
So it's really interesting to see. And I think that the Texas GOP has always done like a really solid job, I hate to admit this, of targeting what Latino voters care about, because they have to win Latino voters in Texas if you want to maintain Texas as like solidly red. And the thing is, as far as like all of the studies I've looked at, Pew Center research, like when they poll Latino voters in Texas and across the board, with the exception of like Florida, where you have a lot of like hotbeds of right-wing reactionary politics amongst the Latino population, the thing that Latino voters care about across all demographics is they are interested in more government spending, big government, which is like right-wing framing, big government, right? That's like supposed to be a scary framing. Even on incredibly slanted questioning, Latino voters still consistently outperform or vote and say that they favor more government spending. So they care about social safety nets, but they also, in many instances, especially older Latino voters, care about socially conservative policies, anti-abortion, or the trans panic, things like that, actually play decently well with Latino voters. So if the Democratic Party is not going to push for more social spending, which they don't, right? They're always in a defensive posture, as you mentioned, and the other side is at least like hitting them on wedge issues that they care about, then they make this calculation of voting with the guy that is going to give them at least something. You know what I mean? Whereas the other guy is only saying the other guy is racist, vote for us instead. And yeah, they are racist. But for many, especially considering that like a lot of older Latino voters, or even like Latino voters of different like multiple generations in, because they view themselves as white under the white umbrella, they make that choice in the same way that like a lot of white voters do. For social conservatism.
Okay, so they are moving, you think, permanently to the Republicans. It's not that they're attracted to Trump.
I don't know if they're moving permanently to the Republicans, because like Trump is uniquely captivating, right? So I think that Trump in many respects is very similar to Obama in the opposite direction. Barack Obama was a once in a lifetime candidate, uniquely charismatic, right? And Trump in the same way is like a singular force compared to Barack Obama. You're not going to have like someone as charismatic as Barack Obama. You're just not. It's not going to happen. And I think in the same way, like that's why I always jokingly say like Trump is the white man's Barack Obama, where Trump is uniquely captivating to anyone who has like even a little bit of like reactionary opinions.
Well, to anyone, right?
Yeah.
Like, surely you're captivated by him.
I mean, I'm captivated by him.
You can't not watch, like, if he's doing a rally or something like that, you're watching the whole thing.
Yeah. I always say that, like, Trump is the best when he's outside of power. Like, when he has no power, when he has not even the bully pulpit, like put him in a fucking 24/7, like, TV circumstance, and it's a win-win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put him in prison, put him on TV all day, every day. He's happy. Give him a gold toilet or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then let him fucking tweet. Let him do his shit from prison.
That's why you need a prime minister and a president. I'm always thinking that. If he had an honourary position where he didn't really have any power, but he still had a title, that's a win-win. You know, like a king of America.
He would be great at that. But when he's in power and he actually acts out on the right-wing agenda that he has, then it becomes really damaging to not just like discourse, but now all of a sudden you're like actually hurting people, and that sucks.
Yes, but this is the thing. He has his views because that's what gets him into office. Right? Yeah. Like if it was a completely different agenda, it would be he would be pushing that agenda.
Yeah, he is only motivated by self-interest.
Yes.
And as like a rich guy, obviously part of that self-interest completely aligns with Republican values perfectly. And I'm like, I don't think he's like an anti-racist by any means. You know what I mean? Like, I think he also personally doesn't give a shit enough to be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck if like people are being put in concentration camps at the border. So it works very well in his favor that like a lot of Americans are hungry for someone who is like a proto-fascist. Not like straight up ideologically aligned with fascism. Like, I don't think he's like reading Culture of Critique and is like legitimately invested in turning America into like this white utopia. But I do think that he doesn't give a shit enough, and if it wins him votes, like he'll say it, like he'll say those things.
Have you ever heard of Tim Nichols?
Tim Nichols? Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's his name. I just remember reading this book, and
I'm gonna grab a water. Do you want something to drink?
Can I get a water?
Yeah. Please. No, sorry.
Thanks for doing that, by the way. Thank you for offering, sir. I do very much appreciate that.
Here you go.
Damn. You don't fuck around, do you?
I came in
little teacups here.
Like a fucking wrecking ball, and I already ordered like a shit ton of Diet Coke and waters.
All right, I'm good.
I need my sodas and I need my waters to function, and my nicotine. It's fucking hot in here.
Yeah, we all have them, don't we?
Yeah.
We've all got our vices. Mine's tea, and I'm not allowed to have it at the moment.
You're not allowed to have tea at the moment? Why not?
Because we're getting frozen babies that we're putting in little Han Solo cryogenic freezing for when we're ready to have kids.
You're freezing your sperm?
I'm freezing my sperm.
Oh, nice.
And so apparently it's not allowed to be caffeinated. Frankly, I think it'd give it more energy.
Oh my god, my sperm is so fucking dead probably then, because I drink a shit ton of soda.
It fucks it apparently. It fucks it.
What?
Well, I mean, it fucks everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat. I think it's just... Did this start happening in your 30s where you're just like, I just fucking need it to function?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 32, I need it. I can't survive without it. I don't give a fuck if it kills my son.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to that stage. Hey, man.
That's good. Alright, where were we?
Oh, yeah. So, anyway. The general throwaway from his argument, and I'd be very interested to hear your opinion on this, which is that, all right, all throughout human history, whether people knew it or not, it's really, I really don't like using these phrases because they're messy, but let's just go with its general phrase, right? Like, it's always just been like a Marxist struggle from like organized society until very recently, maybe post-World War II.
I mean, not classist struggle.
Classist struggle, let's go with that. Classist struggle up until then. Then, standard of living in the developed world got to a point where you can be pretty fucking poor. I don't know what it's like in America, but in Australia, yeah, you can be poor. You can be a crack addict. You can be in serious shit. You'll probably still have a standard of living that would probably exceed the mightiest of Roman emperors, you know? Generally speaking. Now, because of that, because most people's basic needs are met to the point that you'll probably have clean water. You're probably not going to starve. You've probably got access to electricity. You've probably got access to the internet, even if you're extremely poor. As a result of that, society and the institutions that kept society going, which, you know, for its part, you probably greatly disagree with this, but, you know, churches, unions, these kinds of things, they're all eroding. And these are the things that sort of kept society functioning, gave citizens a purpose and a direction to move things forward.
You mean social cohesion? Like instilling social cohesion through public institutions and even... Is that what you mean?
Well, not even social cohesion. I'm just talking about the basics of being a citizen, that you're contributing in some way towards advancing the state. Now it kind of seems like people think, well, I don't need that shit, and they move away from it. Yes, I understand that there is big business interests that are pushing unions to dissipate and whatnot, but still, there was those business interests, say, in 1850 and in 1750. Those still existed. They probably weren't as organised as they are now. Generally, though...
I think it's also the mode of production changing. With the internet, with like automation, we don't have like the assembly line structure that made it so perfect for union organizing. One of the methods that Amazon employs here, for example, is turnover, where they will literally pay you to leave the, like in areas that are closest to like old school industrial revolution style, like a labor structure, when you're like working side by side with other people and recognizing that you have like similar interests and wanting to organize, like in a distribution facility. Amazon is like basically formulaic. They figured out that like 2 years is like the perfect cutoff. So they'll literally pay you to leave the company if you're in a distribution facility. And this actually has created a very unique problem for Amazon, where they are running out of people because they have to be everywhere because they're doing delivery. You have to have a distribution facility everywhere, right? If you want to be able to deliver products in an expedient manner. They have churned so much in every single state that they are now running out of people that haven't worked at Amazon, which is a fascinating development. Yeah, because I mean it's self-destructive inherently. Like it's a classic capitalist problem that they are so good at destroying any kind of like any semblance of social cohesion from a class perspective, any kind of like a assembly line worker coming together and being like, we need to organize. And it's helped them in the short term, right? Yield tremendous profit, eviscerate any kind of labor protection that could have existed. But now it's getting to a point where they're just running out of people. They just don't have any. They don't have enough people.
I had no idea they were so dominant.
Yeah, it's literally. I mean, it is like the profit rate and its tendency to decline in an identical way, where it's always this self-defeating phenomena that exists under capitalism. And if you're super dominant, no matter what, you are going to inevitably run into that problem. And now they're running into that problem.
But say something like Walmart, for instance, you would still have that cohesion of a bunch of workers working together and realizing that they're getting fucked over in terms of pay and like overtime and all that kind of stuff.
That's where regulation comes in.
That's where regulation comes in, but it's also a thing of back in the day, they would join unions.
Mm-hmm.
They're not joining unions anymore.
There's two different things here too, especially when it comes to convenience store workers. They have a concept called company unions. So they are like unions, like for example, Kroger's is trying to merge right now with the other big grocery store chain. They're saying that they cannot compete against Amazon because Amazon has grocery delivery as well. They bought Walmart. They bought Walmart and Sprouts, and they're super dominant in grocery now. Amazon Fresh, Amazon Whole Foods, Amazon has Sprouts. Albertsons and Kroger, not Kroger, I say it wrong all the time, are trying to merge. And Biden's FTC is actually holding that back, saying that, and they're suing them in multiple states, saying that this is anti-competition. Their argument is we can't compete against Amazon, so we are pro-union because there are union shops. So you're eviscerating like the last like grocery union backed like chains, right? But in reality, they want to merge, so they fucking gut the union, even though they have a union. But that union is dog shit. Why? Because in many instances, they're a pro-company union that makes decisions at the behest of the company and not necessarily for workers. So we have so many different variants at this point that like even the structure of a union has been completely bastardized, completely captured by capital interests. There are others like the UAW, the United Auto Workers. They're doing a great job, led by Sean Fain. Teamsters are doing a decent job as well, even though I don't have the same attitude towards Sean O'Brien. And regardless, like when we talk about even unions, even they don't represent what like you would understand unions are supposed to represent in practice.
Really? So they're kind of like unions in, say, Korea or Japan or something. It's just like a Hyundai Presents union.
Yeah. So, but the funny thing is, like, even Korean unions like have more of a history of militancy. All things considered, in comparison to like what these other like unions have played a role of like sedating and completely sidestepping any kind of like labor militancy whatsoever in the specific unions that I'm mentioning. And not others, but still. So not all unions are even equal is what I'm trying to say. So they even have that.
Yes. I guess that kind of does answer the question. His argument is that when all of these things erode, you have someone like Donald Trump that comes along and generally, it was a really interesting point. He was saying, can you imagine if Donald Trump ran in the 50s? The average Republican would be horrified by it. They're just like, who is this man? He's a mental patient, you know?
His vibes would be, I mean, there's like...
This is why it makes sense that you were saying that older voters are moving towards Biden because they kind of remember when there was it's a public servant there. He's not a public servant, you know. He's a celebrity.
That's what Biden represented, 100%. He was like, we're gonna get back to business as usual politics.
Yes.
And obviously, for someone like myself, who's been
trying
to move the Democratic Party in the direction of like actual progressive legislation, even before Trump, even before Biden, who was very critical of Barack Obama for his failures, in my opinion. Like, I was already dissatisfied, right? So Biden's coming back into office, who I voted for, was not a signal for America moving in the right direction. It was basically slowing the car down a little bit as we are like barreling towards the cliff of fascism. And that's, I feel like, the role the Democratic Party plays nowadays, which is we won't accelerate on the gas. We're heading towards the cliff. We'll just slow it down a little bit.
So you think that we're really witnessing like the end of American democracy? This is your view?
I think that I mean, I have two competing opinions on this because, like, on the one hand, I'm very much a nothing ever happens kind of guy. You know what I mean?
No.
Um, there's this principle that like nothing like genuinely world changing ever actually occurs, and it only happens over the course of like many decades of erosion. So it's not like it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen like that. You know what I mean? It's never going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
But I do think that, like, I don't know how many more years we have in like American dominance and an American empire, but I do think that like things are going to get increasingly more violent for the third world, increasingly more violent for those in the global south, as we flail around and, like, in our last gasp of air before full tilt fascism and then inevitable collapse.
As in America or globally?
I don't know what that looks like, but America for sure.
It's a very scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because regardless of whether you agree or disagree with it, that idea of it being the light on the hill, this is the standard, this is what the rest of the world is sort of aiming for. If that goes out,
yeah,
what
I just don't know, because like in the past, at least there was like, for all of its failures and for all of its controversies, for all of its violence, there was at least like a counterbalance during the Cold War. Post World War II, you had the USSR, right? And there were many issues within the USSR, of course, a ton. But at least there was like a counterweight to capitalism, and capitalism won. Like it just completely dominated, right? America completely dominated, and now we're living in that post USSR collapse world where there is no counterbalance, counterweight, and I'm not entirely certain that China fills that void. I don't think that, like, everything that I've seen from China, they are infinitely more self-interested than they are like ideologically communist, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think that they are. I think that they are out for the interests of China and China alone, and they have a different approach to dominance, right? But I don't think that like they have any kind of like interest in arming or defending like socialist institutions in order to dominate in a similar fashion to like America was interested in, like, aligning with fascists, right? As long as like that meant the destruction of any kind of like democratically aligned socialist movement. So there is no, I don't know if there's like a real counterbalance in the way that it existed in prior multipolar formations.
No.
Yeah.
But it seems like the history of the world is always eventually the state that has, I'm guessing, kind of like the most efficient bureaucracy that kind of just acts as this cohesive machine that moves things forward. That's the one that's going to win out eventually. That is China at the moment, right?
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
It's just so much better at getting things done than America is.
It's not even a fucking, like, anyone that disagrees with this is hopped up on so much copium, it blows my mind. Like,
I've never understood the argument either.
No, it's pure, because it's not a rational approach. It is completely irrational. You're looking at it and you're going, I'm scared. They're different. I'm scared. Look at what they will do. Look at what they could do potentially. It's kind of like this. There's always been a very real fear in America, in the antebellum South, that once we liberate, if you allow the slaves to be liberated, then they will do to us, and much worse than what we have done to them. Now, that never pans out in history. Like, obviously, there's exceptions to it. Like, if you look at the Haitian Revolution, for example. But ultimately, the fears, depending on the actions taken by the state in facilitating the Reconstruction, for example, the fears are greatly overblown in many instances. But it's kind of similar to that, where I think the fear from the Western world, especially from America and Americans, is that if China comes into power, they're going to do to us what we've done to them and much worse. And I think that is an overblown fear for sure. But it's entirely dependent on what America does in that time frame, you know?
As in, like a dog backed you into the corner if they're going to bite or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that scares me more than anything is the ramping up of nuclear proliferation, and you can really see that in Australia. That's really freaking me out.
The fucking the AUKUS, the nuclear submarines.
So scary.
Yeah.
Because what is the point of them other than to act as this like constant threat on China's border, you know?
Yeah,
and just
and
realigning
also,
all of these bases along China.
Yeah.
Sorry, but continue.
No, go ahead. You're right.
Well, it's just like, it seems that's what they're gearing for. They're gearing for a rumble.
Yeah.
And that's fucking terrifying in this day and age,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
No, for sure.
that ends in nuclear war. So I don't know, like maybe cool heads will prevail. It doesn't seem like anybody is that mad-capped enough to think, no, we can win this. I don't know. Is that like a prevalent thought in America?
No, that's the
But it's sort of
thing.
just like, it's just moving that way. So
It's again reactionary thinking in the sense that like they're both simultaneously not strong enough to put up against us, but they're so strong and so powerful and so scary that we have to build nuclear bases like everywhere, and we have to have like missiles directly pointed at China. It's Cold War politics in many respects.
yes, but this time America is not on the up.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You're right. And it's really interesting because like when Xi Jinping did the summit in San Francisco, one of the issues that he brought forward was nuclear proliferation of China. He's the one who personally brought it up because like according to what China is communicating, their nuclear proliferation is simply a defensive posture against the militarization of Japan and many other countries in the South China Sea and like surrounding China in like a NATO style formation basically. We have one note in America. That's all we know how to do is like secure allegiances and alliances with every surrounding region, surround the fucking foreign adversary, and hope that it doesn't go to shit because like America is dominant, and what are you gonna do? Go up against America? You can't. You'll get fucking owned. But now that you're actually going up against a country that is like an economic engine that is incredibly important for the rest of the planet, for us to get our treats at a low price that we need, so we feel sedated
America
and shut
included.
the fuck up. Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, I think the calculation changes dramatically. We did not have the same trade alliance or trade relationship with the USSR as we do with China.
No.
So it's a very different dynamic.
It's nowhere integrated. Do you think when it comes to administration in the United States generally, and I'm not even talking about the parties at the moment, I'm kind of just talking about the government as an entity. Do you think that their attitude is, we are not managing decline at this point, we're on the low, but we'll get back up again? Or do you think that they're sitting there and thinking like, no, we've got to fucking do something about China to maintain America's dominance? You know what I'm saying? Like, so instead of just thinking what is just naturally happening, which is America is no longer becoming a global power, it's more just becoming a regional power, similar to what China would be in Asia like 50 years from now. Do you think that they think like that? That like, no, we're just going to be... they still think, no, we're number one, we're going to be the global dominant power, and that's their line of thinking. Because if that is their line of thinking, that's like... It's very scary.
I think it's a third thing, which is even dumber. I think it's short-term profit seeking. I think that every singular problem that you can point to in American existence, from fucking Boeing planes like, having their tires flown off, all the way down to like the infrastructure withering away because it's still resting on the laurels of the New Deal. Every single aspect of American existence is always about short-term profit seeking. So I think like right now, American politicians are not operating on like, and this is another benefit for the Chinese government, by the way, a major benefit of the Chinese government, because they have the allowance
Their
to
100-year plans.
to think
yes.
100 years in the future.
Yeah.
No American politician, I think, thinks that there is like anything but a short lull.
In 2024.
Like, they're thinking, how do we max out for our corporations in the short term, for our corporate benefactors, and like, along the way, there's like pet issues or things that like people sometimes care about. Like, what do we do about gun control? Oh, well, our hands are tied, but maybe we can put like some kind of comprehensive gun legislation on the agenda, and like maybe people will shut the fuck up. Not really solving the issue at all, because like that requires what Americans would probably consider authoritarian measures, right? Like things that, because when the government is actually taking action, there's always going to be people that say, well, I don't like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, when you do that in China, there is no,
too bad.
Well, to a certain degree, because we saw it with COVID zero in China. Like, COVID zero policies were insanely restrictive and also impossible to uphold. And what happened? People revolted, like literally revolted, and the Chinese government was like, "All right, my bad. We're dropping it." Right? So there are instances like of change. Like where people, like, the Chinese government does respond to like the absolute worst thing that people can do, which is like basically fucking riot and revolt against the government. But beyond that, like in America, if you were to, let's say, enact comprehensive gun reform, I'm not even talking about just like something that has 90% approval rating, which is like expanding universal background checks. So there's no like straw purchases of guns, or there's no like everyone. If you buy a gun, you have to get a background check. Makes sense, right? One way to like at least try and get some kind of control over this madness, where there are more guns in circulation in the United States of America than there are people, right? I'm talking beyond that. I'm talking like straight up, no more assault rifles, let's say. We're going to take your assault rifles away. The American population would go crazy. They wouldn't take it. Mm-hmm. Like they would lose their fucking minds, because that's a treat. Mm-hmm. Guns are a treat in the same. It's a commodity that you consume, and it's a very important one for American culture.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it seems that, yes.
That's why I don't believe that TikTok will be banned in America, for example, because TikTok, also a treat. Very popular, very successful treat for Americans. 170 million Americans use TikTok. You take that treat away, people are going to get very mad. Mm-hmm. Like, people will lose their fucking minds over it.
Yes, yes.
So, you can't really do that. You can't do anything, really.
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
So, you're a quite despondent man then at this point.
Yeah.
Whatever happens. You're a bit checked out.
I wouldn't say I'm checked out, because like,
well, you're definitely not checked out. Like, you cover politics 10 hours a day.
You're
not checked out, but you have this feeling of like, enjoy the ride. There's nothing you can really do about it. It is very depressing thinking about politics for a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, in some respects, yes. But I also obviously maintain the belief that like, outside of like the normal political institutions, like it is a necessity to keep building them no matter what, right? Because I think that if there is an inevitable collapse, like, you have to have some institutions that remain, labor unions being one of them.
So that barely exist in America, right?
Yeah, 10% of the labor force.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Here's a fun fact.
It's terrifying.
Here's a fun fact. So we destroyed Chile. Like, specifically, deliberately destroyed Chile. And
yeah, it's like a little beacon experiment, right?
We did neoliberalism in Chile. It was like the first implementation of it, first successful, I guess, implementation of it with a dictator that we put into power. And Chile, in spite of that, has a higher union participation rate than the United States of America. The Chilean union participation rate is 15%. So Chile has a 50% higher union participation rate than the United States of America. Mm-hmm. How fucking crazy is that?
Isn't it strange?
That like America is so hyper capitalist that like our like Latin American testing grounds for neoliberalism is like still some countermeasures that are stronger than the United States of America.
Now,
We're cooking ourselves.
yes, that's true. If you are in the Democrats' position and you have a weak union movement, obviously you're going to be more behest to corporations.
Yeah.
So what the fuck do they do? This is what I'm saying.
For the
I think at some
Democratic
point,
Party?
like what I'm getting more and more into, the more that I look into politics, the more that I've just realised, I think that guy who I've forgotten, I think it's Tim Nichols, but I think that he was right about it. I think that there is this point where you've got to take some responsibility as a citizen. Like you have to join these institutions. Maybe they're shit. Maybe you don't agree with them. That's really not
I
the
advocate
point.
I advocate for that all the time. I think
Yes.
that it's important,
Yes.
especially because like change is marginal and it doesn't happen overnight.
Yep.
And I always say that like it's the fucking Chinese proverb: society only fosters when old men plant seeds for trees they'll never sit in the shade.
Great,
of.
isn't it? Yeah.
That's what I believe in. That's why I advocate for the things I advocate for, regardless of my pessimism. But ultimately,
Can I spit mine out?
yeah.
Where do I put it? Oh, just no. Thank you. Cheers. Go on.
So that's why I advocate for the things I advocate for, in spite of everything else, because someone's got to do it. You have to keep pushing regardless. Because if you take a completely defeatist approach, or like this nihilistic approach, which many people do, especially like young people, because they look at all these social movements and they see no positive change, and they become so pessimistic and so nihilistic that like they end up either moving away from any kind of politics, or just like they allow reactionaries to take over, or they become reactionary themselves.
I think that's a new phenomenon in itself, though, isn't it? Again, if you went back to the 50s, young people would be joining unions. They would be going to their churches and they would be doing charitable organisations and that kind of stuff. It seems like now there's this option of, fuck it, I don't have to do anything. It's everyone else's fault.
Well, that's
and
what
they're
happens
not
when
joining it.
That's what happens when you wither away everything, though. Like,
yes, that's definitely true. But the understanding of those people was like, yeah, my life's shit. Yeah, the union doesn't get everything that I want. I'm still going to join it anyway. It's gone.
Well, it's because I think like there was like I don't fault people for feeling pessimistic. I try to instill class consciousness in them regardless, and I see relative success.
Yeah, how's that going for you with your audience? Do they join their unions? Do they do all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I have
That's amazing. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, I have a shit ton of labor organizers in my community. I have a shit ton of like union members in my community that have like unionized their workplaces.
Wow.
In Lansing, Michigan.
You got to be proud of that.
Oh no, I am absolutely. It is why I do what I do, in spite of like the metric ton of hatred I get, regardless. Because like I do
being an
believe that that's a
internet
good thing.
figure, it's fucked, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Hey, listen, ain't nobody's firebombing my house, so at least I got that going.
Yeah, that's not an internet beef. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. I'm saying that like, my point is, I mean, there's other things that happen, but I won't even get into that because I don't talk about it publicly. But ultimately, I think that it's for a better future for everyone, and I do think that you can like marginally improve your living circumstances by being able to advocate successfully for your own interests in the workforce.
Yes.
So.
And what do you think about joining the Democratic Party? Or are you one of these, I'm starting my own party?
No. There is no... So, I'm in a really interesting... I have a really interesting mindset on this. Like, I believe in entryism to the Democratic Party. I'm an advocate for that. Love that, we have some individuals who have done that successfully, even if I don't align with them 100% of the way. AOC being one, you know what I mean? Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. But no, I'm not a third party pusher at all, because like it doesn't work like that in America. Like, we have a firmly held duopoly. Here, I'll tell you this much. And this was fascinating. RFK Jr. running as a third-party candidate.
What is this man?
He is very, very fascinating individual. Massive anti-vaxxer, right? Total fucking nut job.
Yeah. But that's a person. That's a big demographic.
Yes, because American politics is so fucked.
But
you know
everywhere
really
though, there's a type of person that's like that.
Yeah.
But sorry, go on.
But you know what's really interesting about him? His positions are almost one-to-one aligned with Joe Biden, with the exception of like anti-vaxxer. Like Israel, he literally is like completely aligned with the Democratic Party. On every issue, he's completely aligned with the Democratic Party, except he's an anti-vaxxer, like a massive anti-vaxxer. He's also very interesting because he was like a very big advocate for indigenous rights throughout his career. He has like successfully defended tribes in America. He was a very big environmentalist throughout his career. He used to have, I think he was like on a show with one of my friends and peers who I jokingly call my real uncle, Sam Cedar of the Majority Report. So like he has like this background, and obviously in recent years he's just gone completely crazy, and has said things like
COVID did something to boomers.
Yeah, COVID
it really did.
For a lot of people, I think it was like the isolation that they felt in overdrive like completely broke their brains, I think.
Yeah.
He's like a, if you like the Democratic Party but like are really invested in conspiracy theories, like that's your guy. He even said COVID was a Chinese Ashkenazi Jewish conspiracy.
Yeah?
Yeah. Which I think is,
He's
that's
deep
crazy.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
This man has done his research.
Yeah. He literally, like, that's a crazy fucking thing to say. I find that really strange that, like, how do you arrive at that?
So why is he so propped up then? Why do I see him everywhere?
I don't think he's like that propped up in America. He might be more propped up in like independent media and like independent channels. So you're probably seeing like more of him.
Yeah. He's just always in my feed constantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not as big of a phenomenon as
No.
All right.
Also, he's a Kennedy, and Americans love like
the Kennedys.
Yeah, they do. So there's that. But yeah, the reason why I brought up RFK wasn't because of his own policies, though. It was actually because of like he is running as a third-party candidate. To show you how difficult it is to run as a third-party candidate that is not aligned with the Greens or Libertarian Party. In some of the states like California, you need to get 250,000 votes, like authorized signatures to be put on the ballot. So there are severe hurdles to overcome. In some states, you actually can only do it in between the primaries and the general election. So there's like this very small, very deliberately limited time frame for you to even secure 100,000 votes. 250,000 signatures is like more voters than fucking, the Wyoming Republican Party. You know what I mean? Like, that's an insane number of signatures. Sure, California is massive, but that is like a crazy fucking like hurdle to overcome. And I think that is by design. And it's cooked in that the books are cooked, so to speak, in that regard, in that direction. And you don't have the same like infrastructure, like the party infrastructure that you can rely on. You don't have the same funding mechanisms that you desperately need because you pay to play in American politics, obviously. So regardless of my opinion of him, like I do see that it is virtually impossible for a third-party candidacy to be like viable in this country, even if you are from the previously ordained third parties that do get that ballot access, like the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, especially because of the way that the Electoral College is designed too. So it's there's not really anything you can do. So I'm not like a pusher of third-party politicians at all.
Yes.
I do definitely take a more nihilistic approach to like the top of the ballot rather than all of the local elections that I think are way more important, ballot measures that are way more important, and also the outside of the party politics machine, labor unions and community organizing that I think is like way more important for self-preservation.
Yes. And I'd imagine on a state and local level, you're able to do a lot more than you are on a federal level in the United States.
Yeah, unless you're in fucking California, which is like a nation in and of itself and is like a Democratic stronghold.
So what's your thoughts on Newsom?
Oh, sucks.
You hate him? I do like the 80s bad guy aesthetic.
Yeah, he has
I like
the
how
aesthetic.
he looks like a guy in RoboCop.
Yeah, he has the aesthetics of like a B movie politician, like a straight to DVD politician.
Incredible.
Yeah, but
A
he
1-to-1. And he's glib as well. He's really articulate.
Yeah.
You got to give him that.
No, for sure, I do.
I think that honestly, I know that the Democratic Party is pushing him clearly to be the successor of Biden. It seems to be what they're trying to do.
I
right?
think he would get owned.
Now tell me why. Because I look at that
Right,
man
right,
and
right.
I see somebody that is just like, I've not seen somebody that is that cogent at arguing. I mean, Biden was good back in his day, but this guy, like,
Here's
he
why.
knows how to get to the point.
Here's why he would get owned. Way too much baggage, like
Baggage, eh?
sex stuff. Constantly cucking his friends. He's a bit of a dynamo in the bedroom. So there's one aspect, and that hurts Democrats. That doesn't hurt a Republican like Trump, but that will definitely hurt the Democrats because they have to be like hoity-toity, uptight. We are the party of like adults, right? And not adultery, which Gavin Newsom does. But beyond that, what is way more important is that for Americans, when you think California, you think, and some of this is very real, and some of this is like greatly overblown. You think crime everywhere. People are doing heroin on the streets. There's like literal zombies walking around, and massive amounts of homelessness, and debauchery, degeneracy, immorality galore.
How
and
true
also
do you think that
undocumented
is?
immigrants. So out of everything that I mentioned, the only part of that actually is a real problem is homelessness. And homelessness is a very...
Not drug abuse.
No. Homelessness is the major issue here. Homelessness ties into everything. It is at the heart of it is at the intersectionality of like all of the issues. It captures everything that I just mentioned. When you see a homeless person in the street,
Yeah.
you immediately think drug abuse because the homeless people that you see, the most visible aspect of homelessness is not the 40% of homeless in California that actually are living out of their cars, but you see the homeless person that's on the street. You see mental health problems because obviously your mental health degrades when you don't have shelter and you're homeless for years and years and years, and then you start self-medicating. That's where the drug abuse comes in. And crime as well. You think like vagrancy, you think crime. That is like why so many people think that like Los Angeles is a crime-ridden shithole, for example, because they see homeless people and they go, "Oh, that's crime. That guy's doing crimes for sure." Sometimes literally, like if his dick is out or whatever, and other times like you're like, he's probably gonna do crime eventually. He's gonna yell at someone. He's gonna threaten someone. So that issue is born out of our dog shit housing policies, which exists in Australia as well, in Sydney specifically.
Imagine the entire developed world at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are developed nations that don't have these issues.
Uh-huh.
You look at Helsinki, you look at Vienna. These are massive cities that have almost entirely eviscerated homelessness. What do? They fucking kill the homeless? No. They build houses.
Oh, right.
They build fucking houses. That's it. And it's like, and that is the problem.
What do you think about Bill Maher's argument about it, though, that it's just like there's so many middlemen involved with building social housing in California that it's just like this
I think
empty bucket?
Well, I hate Bill Maher, so I think that there's like
You hate him?
I hate him so much. He's such a piece of shit.
Go on.
He's such a fucking know-it-all asshole who doesn't know anything he's talking about. And
Doesn't make you laugh?
No. I think I'm a Bill Burr fan. I don't like Bill Maher. But I'll say it like this. I think he's like such a classic. Like, I'm different from the rest of the liberals. I'm more tuned in, but what that means is that he's just like an arrogant piece of shit that also is like kind of reactionary on a lot of social issues. So he thinks like, he's captivating this like broad demographic. But as far as like homelessness and housing, in America and in many places in the developed world, in capitalist nations, we see housing as a vehicle for upward social mobility. We see it as an investment, right? almost every single person that owns a home in the United States of America sees that home as a way to get mortgages, more money when they need it in times of need, as an investment vehicle, so that they have some level of, like, a nest egg or some kind of future for their children, right? Housing is supposed to be shelter. It's not supposed to be an investment vehicle. And because that mentality is so ingrained in the minds of Americans, and this is not like an insignificant number. We're talking like 40% of Californians that own their own homes, right? Like, that's a massive number of people who are looking at that, and it's like, that's my investment. Like, that's my future.
Yes.
Like, you cannot diminish housing property values in any way without incurring severe political penalties for
Absolutely.
it. And authoritarianism is the way to go in that regard, where you're like, it's not even technically authoritarian, because California is unique because we do vote for like more housing all the time. We vote in every ballot measure by like wide fucking margins to, like, you know, add additional taxes to homes that are over $5 million so we can build social housing. We have like Project Home Key and so many other initiatives that we launch, that we raise billions of dollars in capital for, that are deliberately back-pocketed by the Newsom administration. Because...
But here's the question, though. Is it just the Newsom administration?
I mean, it would be anyone who's...
I would imagine there would be a fuck ton of consultants involved in this.
Yeah.
I would imagine that there would be a bunch of developers that would be taking rigorous advantage of this and saying, you know, they could build it for $100,000, but they'll charge $300,000. And, you know, that kind of stuff.
An example of that exists in like the high-speed rail initiative that was launched like, I don't know, like 20 fucking years ago in California. And that project is like, that project is like middleman hell. It would greatly boost commerce. It would make the state better. It's great. It's wonderful. There's no downsides to it. And it has been milked by middleman after middleman after middleman permanently and constantly in like red tape hell. Right? The thing is, if there's a will, there's a way. So why is it that whenever it is an initiative in a reactionary direction, there is no more middlemen? We gut through that easily. Trump's tax cuts in 2019 were like 700 fucking pages, right? That got passed in like a day and a half.
Yeah.
Nobody read that shit. Lobbyists wrote it.
Yeah.
And they got that through Congress like that, super swift. Obviously, it's much easier to break than it is to build. I understand that. Having said that, however, we always find a way when it comes to deregulation and when it comes to like actually building shit. There's always a public meeting that you have to have, and then every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry, every small business fascist, every fucking homeowner goes there and is like screaming at the top of their lungs that like, we cannot have housing here. We don't want their kind here. We don't want the undesirables living in our neighborhood. They're gonna rape our daughters and whatever. Yeah. It doesn't take much for a liberal to like turn into a fucking Nazi at the tip of a hat when it comes to like, you know, finding solutions that we democratically voted for. So I say authoritarianism in the sense that like, once a ballot initiative passes, I think it is on you as a public servant to see that project through without any kind of corruption, without any kind of like fucking third party guys that are milking the funds for all it's worth. That is very advantageous for you, because then you can say, well, I'm trying and it's just not happening.
You're not going to give him any. You're not going to give him any sympathy for that. I'm very sympathetic towards that argument.
No, fuck no.
You reckon?
No.
As a public servant, you don't think that like all of these interests coming in and just like hounding you and saying you better pass this or fucking else, and then your top guy over you saying like, what the fuck are you doing? Get rid of this. This is something that I've learned a lot from talking to public servants. I know guys that have saved entire parks from being demolished and just turned into slum, essentially, you know? Or, you know, some cheap development program or a mall or anything like that. They tell me all the time, you just have to pick your battles. Because there's always a superior over the top of you that wants that passed. And a lot of the times you just have to yield, because what happens otherwise?
No,
you get
I
fired.
get that.
They replace that.
I get that for sure. I understand that. I think that good leadership requires moral courage, and sometimes you have to utilize your bully pulpit and say enough is enough. And in this circumstance, you have the public on your side. They voted for it. And I think Gavin Newsom. Well, we were talking about Gavin Newsom originally, like why I don't like Gavin Newsom. He stands in front of all of the progressive momentum in a state like California that is supposed to be the most progressive state in the country. And he stands against that and he stops it dead in his fucking tracks. New York and California are two states that are supposed to be progressive strongholds. They are the Democratic Party strongholds, right? And because they have such dominance as far as politics goes, like as far in the direction of the Democratic Party, they, in my opinion, use that to just, stop any kind of serious progress dead in its tracks. And I think it's really fucked up. So I'm way more aggressive on like my politicians that I vote for than anybody else in that regard. Yeah.
So who do you vote for in California then?
I mean, I still end up.
You go with Newsom.
I still end
Because
up
the thing
because
is-
like last time it was like a re-election or there was an initiative led by Larry Elder. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna fucking vote for that guy. I debated him. He's a fucking dickhead. So there's no option. There's no alternative usually. That's the other part.
Yes, there's no alternative. Would you say that Newsom has done anything right?
Every now and then. I mean, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure chat would be helpful in that regard. Every now and then there's like an
Do you think
initiative
that the
here and
trajectory is
there.
going this way for anything?
In
Generally,
that way?
like I don't know, like environmentally, education, health, anything like that. Because I'm guessing that like homelessness is the overarching. This is like the federal issue where it'd be immigration. Everything is just filtered through immigration, right?
Yeah.
Housing would be that for California on a state
Oh
level.
shit, boy,
right?
boy, and then finish. By the way, we can venture off into Chinatown.
Oh,
Yeah.
do it then.
Yeah.
Do it.
But he did some marginal union shit. Yeah. What is it? Taking over city zoning at the state level if cities don't build enough houses? I mean, that seems good. It's just like I haven't seen productive results from that. That's what it is. And I've seen a shit ton more holding up progressive legislation by veto. Wait, hold on. Okay. Let's figure this out. I don't know how I'm going to do this real quick. But, except immigration isn't a real problem, at least in the way Republicans now and our Dems are framing it. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we're just cucking ourselves every step of the way in America. Like we always cast aside long-term benefits that would yield tremendous results for American prosperity. I'm using that in the Chinese way. You know about Chinese prosperity? Like American prosperity could flourish, but we are so laser focused on quarterly profits in every step of the fucking way that we're just like, nope, that's not even a question. We're not doing that. We just like immediately hand wave it away.
Yeah.
And it's really fucking stupid. It's really brutal. It's really stupid. And it is responsible for our diminishing quality of life in America.
Yeah. Yeah, it's depressing. It really is. Yeah, I look, can't really disagree with any of it, and it rings true to a lot of what happens here. Although I will say that it is nowhere near as bleak as it is in America.
You have like better institutions, I think. Like even the inception of the Labor Party in and of itself, like that difference is important. Like the Democratic Party is
I don't even know. Yeah, like what's the deal with that?
The Democratic Party is not the Labor Party.
But
Like,
what is it? Like, how did it get its roots? How did it start? If it wasn't from the labor movement, it's always this thing of like they're kind of friendly to the unions or something.
You know what it is? I think the difference in American politics is that like our party structure was actually aligned more on geopolitical interests from the jump. because America had like the antebellum South versus the industrial North.
Yes.
And I do think that played a big role in the parties actually operating for many, many years on like a pro-slavery versus like anti-slavery position. Like if you're a Democrat or a Republican in the South, you were, if you were a Democrat or a Republican in the South, you were like pro-slavery, or at least like you were in defense of it, right? And I think that like there was, we talk about like the party shift happening on the issue of slavery. Republicans abolished slavery, Abraham Lincoln, but like in there's like a Southern strategy, and then there's a shifting of interest. But I think that shifting of interest actually came from both parties basically adopting the same exact positions on the economy, slowly but surely through neoliberalism, and then hyper focusing on, and this is like accelerated greatly after Newt Gingrich, wedge issues like social issues that the Republican Party basically cooks up in a laboratory. No, but like literally, that's what they do. They focus test it, and they're like, how can we get polarization happening in American politics when there is no real polarization when it comes to American imperialism and the interests of capitalists? Like, there's no polarization. There's no real polarization when it comes to that stuff. That's always bipartisan. That's why Democrats will openly, literally be like, hey, you want to do these tax cuts, but like, why don't you consult us? And the Republicans will be like, fuck off, you're going to vote for it anyway. And then they do. Some of them, enough of them do vote for it, right? So that's basically what it is. It's like a fake political theater to show that there is some kind of like difference between the two parties. And of course there is a difference between the two parties in the way that like obviously if your position is like kill gay people versus don't kill gay people, that is going to yield a lot of differences on the ground for gay people. But my point is that was completely made up. Like the kill gay people position was just made up by the Republicans, and now we have to fucking deal with it as though it's a serious, viable political position. It's very, very frustrating.
Yes. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I really do think you would have to say the vast, vast, vast share of the blame of where America is now lies squarely in the hands of the Republicans.
Yeah, but I fault the Democrats for not doing enough to move the needle in the other direction, is what I'm saying. Because here, I gotta pee real quick.
Do it.
But when I come back, I have a really good take on this. You can speak to the chat if you want.
All right, hey chat. A lot of Pepe frogs. Fuck yeah, nice. Hey Jordies, just fuck. His chat's too fast. He's too popular. I can't read this shit. Slow down, damn Zoomers. Jordies, I missed you. Well, that's very nice, and put in a very small, concise sentence that my one eye can read. You know what? Honestly, I've got to say, hearing that Hasan has basically brainwashed all of you into joining your union, I'm very, very happy about that. That's great. Well done to all of you, even those that didn't. No, shame on you, actually. I changed my mind on that. The rest of you, many DMs are well-intended, but... see? And then everyone just puts all these stupid little emojis in the way I got. How does he do it? Is he like half a cyborg at this point? Like, does he have a little contact lens that he puts in? How do you read this shit? How's this possible? Just leave me with this.
Jordan's letting that technology get
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it ain't easy, I'll tell you.
Yeah?
You can pause it by scrolling up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Twitch, but I've got to say, Hasan, I think you figured out life pretty damn well. This is not bad. This is not bad. You can work anywhere. You're one of those techno nomads. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to stay in LA. Just fucking leave and go to Vienna if you want.
No, literally, that is why I'm here. Like I can straight up do. This is damn near identical to like my. It's almost like a 1-to-1, identical to like my home setup. Basically.
Really?
Well, my home setup is like way more.
More gamer chairs.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on in my home setup, obviously, but like I've basically figured out a way to try to recreate my home setup as best as possible anywhere around the world. And then I also have the IRL backpack that I swapped to.
Incredible.
Camera's better here though, can't beat that. That's what I hear. They say my camera is always better when I'm away from home.
Well, there you go. There's a little improvement here.
They're,
Don't have
the
to be
boys
so
are,
down and out. There you go.
Yeah, no, it's even better. Yeah,
Cool.
the boys are done. They wrapped up. I'm gonna get us in an Uber, right? Unless you guys drove. Did you drive?
Yeah, we drove.
Yeah.
Oh, we can go if you want to go in your car. We can do that as well. It's up to you guys.
Whatever,
Well, I mean, you've got room in the back, don't you?
whatever works easiest.
I'll sit in the back. He's a big boy. He'll stay in the front. Yeah, I'll be the best.
Yeah, we can. I can. I mean, it just depends. Like, so what I'm gonna do now is before I swap it over to the camera, we'll like drive away to the location. I'll text you the address of where we're gonna go to. Oh wait, they said they're gonna Uber home to grab us.
They said they're back in 10 minutes. I was just on the phone too.
Oh, okay. Then we can just like go with them. I guess we'll just wait for them to come here and then we'll go together.
Done. Yeah, but interested to think what you think about Chinatown. I'm just interested in what your takes, as the kids say, are going to be about anything in Australia.
No, I joke. I'm fucking around when I talk about like Chinese invasion or whatever. I don't.
Well, not me. But like, look, it'll be interesting to see what you think about Sydney. Like, what have you done so far? Like, how long have you been
Nothing.
here?
I just got here this morning. I literally yesterday I was streaming in Los Angeles. I flew overnight, I slept through the whole flight.
Awesome.
And basically planted in here in their living room.
Yep.
Set up my
Embedded
setup.
yourself. Nice.
And then and now I'm like streaming again. So like people basically were watching yesterday in Los Angeles and now they're watching here in Sydney.
Nuts.
Yeah. Oi, come up to Brisbane.
You should. Brisbane is the best city in Australia, I reckon. They've got it right. And
Why?
I think
Why do you
it's
say that?
You know what I think it is? I think it's, look, when a city gets above, like, say, 2 or 3 million, I think it's just too many fucking people to manage. It's too hard. I don't know how fucking Beijing does it. How do you do that? Like, imagine, like, that is everyone in Australia. That's who they have to deal with, as the fucking mayor, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. And I think that when you go to, like, Brisbane or something like that, it's just at that nice point where you're still sort of a country town and you see familiar faces.
It's
when
a
you go down the
Brisneyland.
street. Yeah, Brisneyland. Bris Vegas, that's the other one as well. Even though that's stupid. 'cause
Bullshit. Tasmania is the place to be. Hobart for the
Yeah.
win.
yeah, go down there, Hasan.
Yeah. Accent check. You go underground, trains. Marsh needs to be on the podcast with so little cast. No, we got it. Don't worry. There are even more people in Beijing than the official figures. Take him to Cabramatta.
Yeah, Cabramatta is pretty cool as well. That's kind of like Vietnam town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the difference. Used to be, and this is an incredible thing I just learned recently, it used to be a hotbed of gangland crime. It used to be like rife in the 80s and 90s. And the Vietnamese community themselves turned it out and were just like, no, we're fucking getting rid of these cunts. And now it's like one of the best fucking suburbs in the city.
That's nice.
You know? It's a really nice story.
Yeah.
I like Cabramatta a lot.
They got more than one type of Chinese. Yeah. The joke in my stream is, the joke in my community is like, we say, what kind of Chinese are you? Because like, did you listen to the TikTok? One of the TikTok Senate hearings where Senator Tom Cotton, who's like a straight up fucking piece of shit right-wing fascist monster, was grilling the Singaporean CEO of TikTok and was like, what's your affiliation with the Chinese? Like he was like, I'm Singaporean senator. Like he's like, have you ever wanted to be Chinese? Like he literally said that. Yeah, he was like, have you ever attempted?
You wanted to...
Here, let's watch.
But what's that question? What's he getting at? Wow, what a grilling.
So, you said today, as you often say, that you
Oh, what an
live in
accent,
Singapore.
too.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation
I'm
in
asking-
Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two
Do
and
you
a half
ha-
years in
Do you
Singapore.
have any other? Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's
Have you-
correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
He comes back. He's like, I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough. He's like, I asked, I didn't understand you. You're looking real Chinese to me. What do you mean? There's
Mr. Chu.
there's other kinds of Chinese? Like what the fuck?
Have you ever been associated or affiliated
He's
with the Chinese
Mr.
Communist Party?
Cotton.
No, Senator. Again, I'm
Okay.
Singaporean.
Let me ask you something.
Dude, that's so good. Mr. Cotton versus Mr. Chu.
That is American politics though. Like that literally is like that is how American politics works. Okay? So that's
awesome.
yeah.
No wonder you've got fucking 10 hours of content a day. So
I
it's
mean,
just all these.
It happens, yeah. This is like, I mean, it's funny, but it's also like kind of devastating when you think about it, because like there's a lot of motherfuckers who believe that shit. You know what I mean? There's like
He's an
tens
elected
of-
representative.
There's tens of millions of people that see that and go, yeah, you should have grilled that Chinese man further. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, Senator Cotton, you could not figure out what kind of Chinese he is, and that's
you
a question
really
I
dropped
have.
the ball on this one.
Yeah.
Cotton.
And it's just like it's so fucking crazy. So Tom Cotton famously wrote during the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening about how like the American government should just like kill them on the New York Times. by
What?
the way. Yeah, as a senator, he wrote an op-ed piece on the New York Times famously being like, you should kill the fucking BLM protesters. Here, I'll show you that. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so it's like,
Oh my god, why haven't I heard of this man before?
well, because
So,
like,
this is incredible. So, but this is the so it's a kind of known here in Australia that if you get into the Senate,
Look, there's some very, very, very talented senators, but there's a lot of dead shits there. You know, it's like where you go if you're like owed a favor in the party or whatever. So you don't have to be remotely talented.
he wrote this article titled "Send in the Troops." Like, this is like straight.
look at it. Look at
fascism.
that photo. He means
Yeah.
business.
The nation must restore order. The military stands ready. And then the New York Times got yelled at so much they fucking wrote an editor's note. After publication, this essay met strong criticism from many readers and many Times colleagues, prompting editors to review the piece and the editing process. Based on that review, we've concluded that the essay fell short of our standards and should not have been published. The basic arguments advanced by Senator Cotton, however objectionable people may find them, represent a newsworthy part of the current debate. It's like, no, dude, it doesn't. You let like this fucking psycho who is an elected representative argue in the paper of record that you should send in the military to like fucking shoot BLM protesters. That is insane.
It is nutty.
Yeah.
That is nutty. Is he like does he exceed all others as an American Republican in the Senate, or are they kind of all on the same page?
They're pretty much all on the same page. I mean, you got
Is he an outlier? Is what I'm saying. In any way?
I mean, this take was, I think, this take was very popular by the Republican Party. I mean, Trump said that too. When the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
there was another one. Here, I'll show you Kennedy. Someone brought up Kennedy. That was another one who read excerpts from like some like genderqueer novel or something in Congress. That was a really funny moment.
I'd imagine
you-
that's like a big part of the Senate, right? Them picking
yeah.
some book in California and
Well,
waving it
that's
around.
that's like House of Representatives. That's even worse. So back in the day, the Senate used to be considered the greatest deliberative body, right? Like it was an institution that was supposed to have like a higher regard for democracy and you know, back and forth conversation. It's fucking bullshit. Obviously, it's like that was how it was presented, but they would always say like, oh, we're not crazy like the House of Representatives, where there's like 300 and 400, however many fucking representatives, and they're kooky as hell. You have the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, for
I
example.
think the president's new tactic
Wait, fuck.
is star-spangled stupid.
What is this?
Oh, who's this guy?
So this is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy.
Now,
Okay.
he's huge. He's everywhere.
I mean, not really. He's
No?
just like an old school Republican senator, just to show. But he's from Louisiana, so like you gotta, there's something in the water down there. You know what I'm saying? There's just like, here.
I think the president's new tactic is star-spangled stupid. Opinions are kind of like belly buttons. Everyone has one. Some are innies, some are outies. Select a clown, expect the circus.
He once famously also ran a campaign ad that said, "If you got a problem with the police, next time you got an issue, call a crackhead." Which is awesome. Like, I mean,
My car does not run on unicorn urine or fairy dust. Look at Washington, D.C., and they asking themselves, how did these people...
oh, this is not RFK. RFK is a different guy. This is another.
No. Yes, no.
Yeah.
I've seen this guy around
make
a
it
lot,
to
and
the
it's always
birth
just
canal.
like
And
all
that's
over
on
like
a good
Republican
day.
Twitter and
Maybe
stuff.
on a
It's just been,
day
like, in
pass
shreds
from the
and that.
nursing home, happily eating ice cream. I thought Attorney...
The better one, I think, is the gender book ban, where he reads this like insane
Thank
shit.
you, Mr. Chairman. Asking us to do. Lube on and got him on his
Oh, here.
disgust.
I love that he reads this stuff. It's so awesome.
The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue. And I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees. And I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All boys aren't blue. The second is another much
he's got more.
discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay? Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
Boys,
Hello.
you just caught it.
Now.
We were just reading. Oh, fuck. We were not reading smut. We were not sitting.
Senator was talking about it.
Oh, fuck. This is awkward. I was not showing Friendly Jordies my favorite smut.
Yeah.
This is like
Erotica.
Making kids gay.
Yeah. Fuck.
That's my favorite hobby.
We got caught. This is embarrassing. I don't know
It's
how to
awesome
describe
because
it.
you can tell that this guy needed to look up what like a strap-on was and a dildo. Like you
Yeah.
can tell, like he's yeah, it's a new world
He's,
for him.
he's
So
into it.
So he brings this up a lot, does he? This is his big.
Not really.
crusade.
I mean, this was just like for the Senate Judiciary Committee holding a hearing examining book bans and how these books should be banned. And now they present it as though this is like reading material that is given to like kindergartners as like a part of public curriculum. It is not. It's simply books that they find that are available in libraries at the discretion of the librarian. And yet, you know, they ban them regardless because they're like, this can't not stand. You know, this is making my child gay. So I'm starving, by the way.
Oh yeah. Should we get some? Well, we
What's
can go to
that?
Chinatown and get food.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is probably the.
What is,
Yeah, you got to get it in the middle for our sponsors.
is it?
It's like the most common snack kids will be given.
What is it?
It's
Shite?
disgusting. I don't know.
Shite?
It's,
Oh, he doesn't know what shapes are.
The,
No, it's
No.
all Australian.
the motto is flavor you can see, so it's so covered in MSG that you can see.
Oh, I love that.
And the ad was the ad like little pizza
Little-
man dancing
yeah.
on the.
No, yeah.
You got like a little Mexican woman dancing for like the Mexican woman flavor.
Oh, I
Just a
love
million
that.
Barbecue.
Mexican women in there.
The ranches are all just little barbecues. There's a little cowboy just like
So
sweeping on
should
the
I
barbecues.
just call us a fat Uber
Yeah,
or
I
what?
could drive us in. If they'll make it easy
Are we
for
gonna
live
fit?
streaming.
Are we all gonna fit?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's the cabin space is the same.
I could just not go because I'll just be like, like trying to dodge the camera.
Yeah,
like, in the way.
Kind of hard
Yeah.
live stream.
Yeah, we could.
Because like we have
I've been
not
trying-
investigated. He keeps telling me that China's not invading Australia, and
You're wrong.
I feel like that's not true. I've heard
Well, you got to see it with your own
my
eyes.
my favorite political commentator Drew Pavlov has told me China has invaded.
I
As
don't
a,
even know
matter,
who it is.
as a matter of fact, so
He's more researched on the topic, so I
yeah,
reserve
it seems like he knows what he's talking about. So I think
Did you guys introduce him to Drew? Did you?
oh no, I was introduced myself.
You introduced yourself.
No, I only found out about him because he like
His
tweets at me
ideas
all the
intrigue you.
fucking
Oh,
time.
does he?
Yeah, he was like very mad that I had I did a new release at ideology.shop called Capitalism in Crisis or Capitalism in Decay, and it's about like it's fashioned after like tour merch, and it's like just dates of American coups. Because imperialism, the final stage of capitalism, and he was like very mad that, or he wasn't mad, but he was like, "Look at this guy saying capitalism in crisis while selling a T-shirt," and I was like, "Thanks for promoting it," and I quote tweeted him, and I was like, "Thanks for promoting my union-made, American-made merchandise, available at ideology.shop." And every time I've like ever interacted with him or even acknowledged him, I think he busts a nut. Like he just loses his mind. He gets so excited.
Sounds like Drew. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets so fucking excited. And because he's my favorite political commentator, I feel like he keeps talking about how like didn't he like go to jail or something for like trying to burn a Chinese embassy or some shit?
Sounds like classic Drew.
Yeah. So, he's fighting the good fight by doing heinous race crimes.
What are you talking about, dude? Direct political action.
Yeah,
He's done
yeah.
more than we've ever done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
We did. We didn't even enter as firebase.
No, exactly. No.
Fucking,
All we do is sit around and talk.
yeah.
Yeah, you talk about the American invasion, you invited an American into your home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Drew would never invite a Chinese person to his house. That much is certain.
We were talking about Pauline Hanson earlier. That's what one of her famous things. She was selling her house. She's like, "No, it's my right to not sell it to a Muslim." It's my house.
Really?
It's
That's-
my rules." Yeah, I think she said that. She was like, "No,
That's crazy.
no, I live here."
He hates you because he's Greek. Yeah, I heard he's Cypriot, which is, another word for Turkish, I guess.
Oh, yes. By the way, happy conquest, yeah?
Yeah. Is that today?
Yeah.
Oh.
What the hell?
I didn't-
Where's your fucking nationalism?
I don't know.
What's today?
Conquest Day, baby.
Of Cyprus.
Yeah, that was the big win of the Ottoman Empire. That was the big.
Yeah.
That's when they all lost it.
Yeah. This is like, is it actually like, is it like Anzac Remembrance Day or some shit? Like actually, anytime
yeah.
soon?
I remember
24th of April.
I remember them every day.
Oh
so I don't know
fuck!
about
I
this
came
day.
I came 1 month too early. I invaded you guys like you tried to invade Gallipoli. But,
Yeah, I don't know. What the hell? Unannounced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knew this had happened.
So, okay, let's do it.
Convert to
Let's do
IRL.
the
Yeah,
let's
that's
do
right,
the
yeah.
damn thing.
Do we want swimmers, or is it we're not gonna have time to go to the beach after Chinatown?
No, I don't think we're gonna have time.
All right.
I'm just trying to have some Chinese food because
so
I'm
good.
fucking starving.
Some food, yeah.
But under the guise of doing political activism, figuring out what this invasion is about.
We just came back from a ABC podcast,
Oh,
and
he
they were
mentioned
grilling
you.
me. They were talking about so what if China invades Taiwan, are we just meant to like let it happen? I was like, yes. It's got nothing to do with me.
It was Tom Tilley, and he mentioned that you had.
Oh, for fuck's sake, really? Oh my
He's
god,
like,
my
"Hey,
Drew Pavlu.
He's like,
Jesus.
oh, the Friendly Jordies has said some things about me or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
but Tom, you fucking love it. Any attention's good attention to Tom.
I'm trying to have a succulent Chinese meal.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hopefully.
Damn it, how does he know all this stuff?
Unhand my
So
penis.
this is very, very.
I can't believe it. All right,
Yeah.
like after he's eating shapes, he's experienced it all. It's nothing.
I see you know your judo.
It's made me not like it though. The fact that
Yeah.
all the
Once-
Americans,
once
like
the
Charlie,
South stops doing it.
Moist Critical, keeps doing it. I'm like,
We
fuck,
love-
you-
we
you
love the
killed-
succulent
you killed
Chinese
the
videos.
meme.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's
the
the
joke's
best.
dead now.
We had one joke. You guys got heaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good.
I'm so hungry.
Democracy manifest. Sorry, it'll come back. It'll come back. You'll cycle back around to liking it again if I keep repeating it over and over again.
Oh, Gangnam Style was always good. It never became uncool.
Let's see. What can I play here?
You got the XQC
What?
style.
So what? Tom Tilley got you on to sit there and just be like,
no, no, it was-
pro-Chinese activist.
He was very nice. We were talking mainly about the video, and he was giving a lot of compliments. There was just like a tiny bit of pushback against like our
And he was like,
shilling for
extreme
China.
pro-China
Also,
stance.
he was like, this stuff about, you guys have your point of view about what happened to Goth, but that's not necessarily the truth. Do you think
Yeah.
you have a responsibility to tell the truth?
I'm like, I think it's the truth.
Yeah, we're kind of like talking about how everyone has propaganda and comes from a certain point of view. It's like,
Wait, what did you say to that? Sorry.
Well, we were just like, look, when we watch mainstream media, we see a very, very biased opinion. I don't think there's much of like a respect for truth in that environment, and we're just providing the
Because, dude,
counterpoint.
I grew up my entire life being like, yeah, he couldn't get a bill passed,
Yeah,
and that's
same.
what, like that.
that was my answer. I'm like, look, I did year 9 history as well. And like, I understand. I know about.
I know the
plight.
official
Yeah,
story.
Yeah. I just think it's stupid.
there's another better answer.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all, does it? Like when you think back at it, it was just you just accepted it.
Well, I
like-
remember it sounding stupid at the time. I was just like,
Did
what-
you?
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? You can just the opposition party can just do a thing that means that they're
Their
in
prime
power.
minister
Yeah.
now for the
It's
next
like
7 years.
That doesn't make any sense.
All right, here's what we're gonna do, boys. I'm gonna be playing Kaya's birthday party on here while we get in the car and rush over to Chinatown to see once and for all if China is actually invading Australia, right? Okay. And yeah, we'll see you on the other side in like 5 minutes. Okay.